All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Healthy Tampa Bay podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kerry Reller, and today we have Dr. Janeeka Benoit. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and we're happy to have you, of course. You have a lot of unique specialties in your background, and why don't you share with us basically who you are, what you do, and how you kind of got into what you're doing now?
Yes, I am a double board certified internist in sports medicine physician. And given my specialties, I've had the pleasure of working in various areas of medicine. So I've done outpatient medicine, I've done hospitalist medicine, I've done sports medicine, I've done it all. But I would say the one thing that was always hard for me going through training and just seeing patients in general was all this chronic disease, right? And it's just like
Mhm.
we are managing these chronic diseases, we're managing the medications, and I wanted a way to really help people find health while they're navigating a chronic disease. And I've also developed a special bond with women, just being a woman myself and having all the nuances that comes with our bodies and the changes that we go through during midlife and just even like the thought process, the way that we think about ourselves and our bodies through different seasons, right? When we're younger versus having children versus studying for an MCAT exam, our body goes through different things. And I feel like sometimes we can be especially hard on ourselves. I wanted a way to help women lose weight and also prevent chronic disease. And I understand that prevention is at different areas. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary. And with that, I created my own telehealth practice, Invessel Health and Wellness, to help women, especially high achieving women, lose weight, prevent chronic disease so that they could live longer and healthier lives. And also, something that I forgot to mention that I think is really important is that in my mid 30s, I developed this unexpected weight gain. But I want to say it was extremely unexpected, but I had gone through a surgery and I just gained weight much quicker than I've ever had in my life. And it became really hard to lose it. And so as I was working on that, I was losing weight. And so I remember going to my primary care doctor to get my lab test, and my LDL cholesterol was elevated for the first time ever. And I have a family history of cardiovascular disease, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get on top of this quick, fast, in a hurry. And I've gained weight before when I was younger, but it was much easier to lose weight. And as I was navigating my own journey, I was helping patients with their journey. I was like, okay, I can do this myself. And I've done that through Investment Health and Wellness, my telehealth practice.
Okay, I have so many comments and questions. One, you don't look a day over 30, so I don't know how you're
Thank you.
talking about, oh, in my 30s. I know it's a podcast, but looking at you, no way. But also, you said I wanted to understand why you named it Invessel Health and Wellness. Where did it come
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I actually did a post on this yesterday. And so it
from?
came from three things. It came from three things. Number one, it started with my mindset. I was thinking, okay, Investment Health and Wellness is going to be like this large company. And when you see other companies, so for example, there's like Facebook and Netflix. At face value, those names sound ambiguous, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to name it Investment because that's also going to help people inquire what it means. Then the next thing was my training. I'm an osteopathic physician, and one of the
Mhm.
tenets of our osteopathic principles is that a person is composed of three parts, mind, body, and spirit. That is essentially your vessel, is your mind,
Mhm.
body, and spirit. And I know that with health, it is an investment. You have to make an investment in your health. And the type of woman I attract who's a high achiever, she's going to make an investment in
Mhm.
her health. Like she has made investments in her career, in her business, and maybe her health hasn't taken a back burner because she's placed all these things at the sacrifice of her health. And she's at this point, she's no. I have invested into all these things in my life. It is time to make an investment in my health as well. So it stands for invest in vessel. So I just I
Oh,
put all those words together and made it in vessel.
I love it. I think that really encompasses everything of what you just said. And I haven't heard any osteopathic doctors speak of that mind, body, and spirit like framework before. So
Yes.
that's actually new to me. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I think what's interesting is and helpful is when a physician is going through their personal experience. I feel like what you just said, it really helps resonate with the patients better and get them really on board and understanding more of what you have gone through when they're going through it too. So I think having that personal experience is always like a really great additional way to teach and learn and mimic. And I think we're all human, right? So nobody's perfect. So having gone through it yourself is such a great way to learn and be able to teach your patients as well. So I thank you for sharing your story, of course.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
you focus on women, and obviously out there right now, hot topics are menopause, perimenopause, and maybe you were or weren't doing that at 35. That sounds, or mid 30s, you said. But how does that take effect, and what do you see with your patients now of how that's playing a role into how you're treating them and preventing chronic disease, helping them live healthier and longer lives, kind of thing?
Yes. And I explain it to my patients from two fronts because we have chronological aging and we have ovarian aging.
Mm,
Okay. And so with chronological aging, over time as we get older, we lose lean mass about 3 to 8% per decade, starting at the age of 30. Okay.
mhm,
And so that is what is going to lower our metabolism, and that is going to lead to weight gain that is attributed to chronological aging. Now there is ovarian aging, and with ovarian aging, as estrogen starts to become depleted, that can lead to increased adiposity because our fat does release estrogen to some degree. And so,
mhm,
as a way to compensate, our body is going to create increased fat predominantly around the belly, heart, and liver and muscle. And this type of fat is inflammatory. And with that inflammation, it can lead to things like insulin resistance, and that leads to impairing the metabolic milieu of your body, can also raise blood pressure and increase cholesterol. And that creates the storm for something called metabolic syndrome, which is something that I am always looking for when a woman comes to me and they're saying, okay, I'm doing all the things and it's hard to lose weight. What is happening? And so there's all of that. There's the chronological aging, there's the
mhm.
ovarian aging that can lead to insulin resistance and create the perfect storm for metabolic syndrome, which can make you at risk for heart attack, strokes, type 2 diabetes.
And what, for listeners, what is metabolic syndrome and how is that defined?
Yeah. And so first I like to start off by saying your body is really good at handling basic things. And so those basic things is handling blood sugar and handling cholesterol and managing your blood pressure, right? And what happens is during metabolic syndrome, all those things get impaired. And so blood sugar gets harder to control, cholesterol gets harder to control. You may be having increased fat around your midsection, causing increased waist circumference. And so all of that is composed of metabolic syndrome. And I also like to say our body is like a factory, right? And so with metabolic syndrome, you have a malfunction of your factory. And so when the factory's balanced and everybody is in the right departments and doing its thing, that is metabolic health, right? Your body is in
Mhm.
harmony versus when the factory's in disarray and there's chaos and there's overwhelm from uncontrolled blood sugar, cholesterol, increased inflammatory fat that is around your heart, liver, intestines, that creates metabolic syndrome.
So you already alluded to it a couple of times. So how do you explain to patients like why does that weight gain in women occur in the midsection?
Yeah. And so it happens in the midsection because what happens is number one is that your liver it's like your processing plant of this factory that is your body. And what's happening is that over time, the liver gets overcapacity, right? Because the liver
Mhm.
is to store sugar. But when the liver is over capacity, it starts converting that sugar into fat. And your liver it's in your abdomen, right? And so it starts to convert that sugar into fat. And so now you are starting to spill out fat, like your liver is overproducing fat, but now you're also overspilling this fat into areas that it doesn't belong, right? So
Hmm.
not only do you have it here in the midsection, that is as a result of your liver overproducing fat, but then you also have it spilling out in other areas like your heart and your muscle.
Hmm.
And it is a malfunction of your liver that's all related to this estrogen deficiency. So you have
Hmm.
estrogen deficiency that creates this increased adiposity that is creating the perfect storm for insulin resistance, and that causes now all this fat storage that is in areas that it's not supposed to be.
I don't know if I heard from a person in particular, but they used like a analogy or whatever you want to call it. So like a male is able to gain that weight throughout their whole life in the
Mhm.
middle, right? And sometimes if you push on it, like it's firm, and that's usually what we're talking about, like the visceral fat, this dangerous fat. Whereas if it's soft and subcutaneous, it's not as harmful, but it still can be. And then the women, when our ovaries are working, while we still have ovarian reserve, they're protecting this abdominal area a little more so that you can use the uterus that supposedly not everybody uses it, but to have a child, right? So
Mhm.
they're eliminating the fat from that area, or limiting, I should say. And then once the uterus is done being used, then unfortunately the lack of estrogen all of a sudden is allowing us to gain weight in that area. I thought it was a really interesting kind of just comparison to males and why.
That
So
is a really great
I don't
analogy.
know if you're religious or anything, why God created us in that way so that we could have the ability to birth a child and hold a child in uterus and utero, although not everybody does so. So I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting comparison to men and why that happens eventually to women as well. I don't
No, that's a great
know.
analogy. And just like another thing that I wanted to mention, so that's why body composition is important,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? Because those body composition changes, they're more menopause specific because you're getting this increased visceral fat. And if you're not doing any type of resistance training, you can be losing lean mass, further contributing to weight gain. And then you have all this increased fat in your midsection. So now you have both of that, right? And so it's now we look at body composition to see, okay, what is your proportion of fat to muscle? And not only you're looking at body fat and you're looking at visceral fat, right? And so we want to make sure that our body fat is down, our visceral fat is down, and that we're preserving muscle mass or increasing muscle mass.
So one thing you said was when you're 30-ish, your muscle mass is going to start decreasing, right?
Mhm.
So that assumption is definitely one way, at least you and I can see, that someone might have weight gain, right? Because you can explain it, but the muscle mass is our glucose sink. They're using up and burning calories, right? So I'm trying to think of all the ways of why someone say, why is it so hard to lose weight now when I'm doing all the same things, right? So
Mhm.
one, I think would be the muscle mass, right? If you
Absolutely.
want to elaborate on that at all, and then I
Yes.
to see if we can think of some other things.
Yes, and so yes, you absolutely alluded to it with there's a couple of things. So number one, your muscle is like a sponge, right?
Mhm.
And so it helps to soak up glucose without even needing insulin. So that's why it's great to have adequate amount of muscle because if you do have element of insulin resistance, you're not you're not constantly having to pump out insulin to help store nutrients because your muscle is able to do the work without even needing insulin. So that's number one. Number two is that you're able to burn calories at rest. And so what that means
Mhm.
is you think about having a mansion, living in a mansion versus a one bedroom apartment. That mansion is going to take more energy to maintain rather just like a small one bedroom apartment. So the more muscle you have, the more energy it's going to burn because it takes more energy to maintain muscle on your body. Okay. And then also with having muscle mass, that helps to boost your metabolism and it helps to increase your metabolism, specifically your basal metabolic rate, right? Which is what goes down as we age. And so your basal metabolic rate increases and that helps to boost your metabolism and that helps to help control your weight better.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you measure these things in your practice like we do. So
Absolutely.
that's fun to
Yes.
see the data.
Yes.
So one is the muscle, obviously. And then another thing that might be, say, what if they tell you, oh, I'm doing all the same things in the same exercises? How would you respond to someone saying, I can't lose weight, but I'm doing all the same things?
Yeah. And so with that, oh my gosh, there's so many different things that I have to look at. So when patients come into my practice, like I do an in-depth intake form, right? And so I'm evaluating things for even for like mood disorders, anxiety, depression,
Mhm.
sleep. I'm asking questions about their sleep. That's a huge thing. Overtraining, right? Sometimes it's overtraining and there's just so much cortisol as a result from the increased stress on the body from overtraining that can impact weight loss. Then there is metabolic syndrome. And so I'm looking at labs, okay? Is there increased elevated LDL cholesterol? Is your fasting glucose elevated? Is there elevated A1C? Asking about family history. Is there a family history of diabetes, cardiovascular disease? And there's all these things that I have to evaluate to see, okay, what are the players here? Sometimes it's just season of life. Like life is really hard right now. And so they are really not able to nourish themselves. So like improper fueling, because if you're doing the same exercises and you're not properly fueling yourself, those exercises are not going to yield the benefit that you intend them to have. And so I have to take a bird's eye approach, do it the intake form, and then I come in deeper to ask those targeted questions to see, okay, what are the main levers here that is impacting your ability to lose weight?
There can definitely be so many different things. You just said a million of them. I was alluding to, there's that word, I keep using alluding today, but of exercise that if you're doing the same exercises and not doing any sort of challenge or
Oh, I
increase
see.
in
Okay.
weight or increase in frequency or increase in intensity, then you're doing the same thing, but it's not as hard, right? So you're not
Yeah.
working as hard, right?
Yes.
So if you're not working as hard to do these things, then you're not burning as many calories, if you want to talk calories in and out, right? Then that's one reason why you may think that you're burning as many as you were previously, but you're not because you're not working hard enough. You have to
Right.
continue to challenge.
Absolutely. And so with resistance training, there are different
Mhm.
components. There's strength, there is power, and there's
Mhm.
hypertrophy. Okay. And so with strength, that is the maximal force that your muscle can produce, right? And according to the American College of
Or-
Sports Medicine, the recent
yeah.
guidelines that came out in 2026, that maximal load is really considered to be 80% of your one rep max. So that means if you were to do a bicep curl and you did 10 pounds and 10 pounds at one rep was the most you can do to contract that muscle with one bicep curl, then you'd have to bring it down to 80% so that you would have to pick up an 8-pound weight to do your bicep curls to work on the strength portion of
Mhm.
your resistance training, okay? Then there is power. Power is the rate at which muscle is able to contract. So you're thinking about how fast can you move by lifting a moderate load, right? And so this could be something like a wood chop. You know what I mean? You're really focusing on speed, but you have a heavy load at the same time. And then there is hypertrophy, which is growth of a muscle. And for that, you're really focusing on volume. So you want to think
Mhm.
increased sets. So you want to at least have 10 or more sets per muscle group in a week, in a 7-day period. And so that is the way to create a really robust resistance training that continues to challenge you. And I'll just do a quick recap. So with strength, you want to really focus on 80% of your one rep max. With
Mhm.
power, you want to focus on speed with a moderate load. And then with hypertrophy or muscle growth, you really want to focus on volume, which is increasing your sets or reps.
And I think that's a great explanation. And those are the things that sometimes are missing in some people's plans, right?
Yes.
They're just doing their same old workout that they've been doing for 10 years and yet not challenging, not doing progressive overload, not working on the strength, power, and hypertrophy, right? And I think that can be one reason why you think you're doing all the same things and why are you not having success with what you're trying to do is weight loss or improve body composition, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's more of the fitness thing. The other thing is probably just daily life activity, right? Perhaps in your mid 30s, you're moving around more. If you were having children or an active job, things are different then, and you are just doing more activities, right? As you age, and like you mentioned, like chronologic age and other ovarian aging. But as you do that, sometimes we're just more sedentary than we actually realize. And I
Mhm.
think that also is another contributor to maybe what you think you're doing is the same, but in reality, it's not if we were videoing you every day of your life, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in this age of working from home and
Mhm.
being on your laptop, AI and all these things, we're more sedentary these days. And so we have to be intentional of just moving, right? If you don't even get to the strength training part, it's just moving, getting steps in on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be so routine. Little things like parking your car farther away, taking the steps, walking to your destination instead of taking the car, right? Just things like that we can incorporate during our daily life because we're busy, we have busy lives. But if we can integrate these things into our life instead of thinking, okay, I have to get to the gym and I have to be there for an hour, if we can learn to integrate it and just make it part of our life, it also feels less pressure filled. And it also becomes your identity. This is what I do, right? This is
Mhm.
I walk to the store and have, get my fresh fruits, or I walk to the farmer's market every Saturday and that's how I get my activity in. And so it really helps to remove a lot of the pressure and also the perfectionism because
Mhm.
the women that I deal with, they're very high achieving that everything needs to be a certain way. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be so perfect. And just removing some of the pressure, the perfectionism to get it to look a certain way is also very beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah, I think just those basic things of being intentional about it, like
Yes.
parking farther or, standing up more, walking around your home instead of when I'm working from home on Wednesdays, I barely move. It's bad, right? But if you're really thinking about it and like you said, actually creating that identity that you're a person who moves, you're a person who eats healthy, you're a person that exercises, and you're a person that sleeps well. I think that really can make a big difference in the mindset of actually being purposeful about it, essentially, right? I think incorporating that in, like you said, sometimes we call them exercise snacks, or whether that's an exercise snack or just getting yourself to move more, I think is a great thing too, because you're right. Honestly, the people that come to me most struggling with weight are like often people that are working from home and are like, my job is just so sedentary
Right.
and I don't do anything. I'm like, you got to get moving, right? It's definitely
Right.
one of the main things. So I feel like you said, that's definitely one of the things as you're approaching that menopause age or as we just age in general, you're moving less. And that's another component, right? You think you're exercising the same, you're just not moving as much in general. So those big movement factors are a huge play as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you obviously already said the whole part about having more muscle and challenging that muscle as well.
Yes. And then I also encourage patients to get creative. Some of my patients are like, it really depends on the weather, right? So if it's like cold outside and I have like I prefer to walk outside. And so I say things like, could you put your walking pad like facing the window so that it looks like you're able to see outside? And I think sometimes, like me included, we get into a certain like routine again of doing things.
Mhm.
It's hard to think outside the box. Oh, like I can put my walking pad facing the window so that I could get the sunlight in my face and I could see people walking by if it's raining, right? Or if it's like
Mhm.
sweltering heat outside. And just thinking about like outside the box, if you have stairs and you don't have any knee issues to walk up and down the stairs, that's another thing that you can do. Just using the steps in your home, going just up and down the steps. And then I try to, especially people who have a hard time to conceptualize exercising, I tell them you squat every day. And they're like, okay, what do you mean? I'm like, you sit. Don't you sit every day? Like, you are doing a squat when you sit. So, what if you, before you sat down, you just did 5 like butt taps on your computer chair. You are
Mhm.
squatting. That is a squat. And so just helping people think about other ways that doesn't look so standard, like going to the gym for an hour, right? If that is not if you're not able to do that, just given the season of busyness that you're in, that's okay. Can you do 5 butt taps before you sit down on the computer? Or doing a push-up? You don't have to get on the floor. You can do wall push-ups. So you
Mhm.
have a wall in your house? Okay. So go ahead and do 5 wall push-ups. When you walk, you're essentially doing a lunge. When you're in the stance phase of walking, that is a lunge. What if you just bent down a little lower and went down into a lunge? That's a lunge, right? And so just getting people to think about exercise in a different way rather than doing a HIIT class or doing a group Zumba class. If they don't have time to drive to
Mhm.
the gym or any of those things, like they can use their home, their world at their disposal, and they could still get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be some sort of organized class and
Exactly.
encounter. That it is good to plan ahead. It is good to set out your clothes for all these things. I'm not going to say that's not a good thing to do, but you can still get the workout or however you want to call it, the activity in throughout the day. So those are great little tips. Also, I haven't seen too many people walking and doing lunges, but that would be a great addition. You
Yeah,
see all the weighted vests now, but imagine those
right.
same people doing lunges during their
Exactly.
walk. And I think that
Yeah,
would really enhance the gluteal load there that would be
exactly.
there.
Exactly, for
Yeah.
sure.
So like you said, get creative. I think that's a
Yeah,
great idea.
yeah.
You also talked about elevated cortisol and sleep. And can you make any comment on that and why that might be something someone would think that might be contributing to weight gain or inability to lose
Absolutely.
weight in menopause time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, when we have the increased visceral fat that is attributed toward or from ovarian aging, as a result of estrogen deficiency, that insulin resistance and that visceral fat that we develop, number one, that creates this low level state of inflammation, right? And so we have this constant low level state of inflammation. And then when it comes to increased stress, increased emotional
Mhm.
stress, that can also raise our cortisol levels. And with cortisol, it follows a natural clock, right? And cortisol it's like your wake up hormone. So it typically is highest right before you wake up. It's lowest like when you're about to go to sleep. And then as you sleep, it starts to increase and then it starts to peak right before you wake up, right? And so it's there to help you wake up. Now, when you have elevated, so when you have too much cortisol there, it could lead to less restorative sleep. And so that deep sleep that is necessary for memory and mood regulation, there is less of that due to increased cortisol because the cortisol, it is a wake up hormone. So you're more awake than you should be when you should be in a more deep and restorative stage of sleep, right? So you may feel more restless. Your sleep may be more easily perturbed, right? So you may have just lighter sleep and you enter less into that dream sleep, that REM sleep, right? And so with all of that, that helps to or that creates also the storm for sleep deprivation, right? And
Mhm.
so this increased cortisol is contributing to sleep deprivation, and with sleep deprivation, that can also lead to weight gain, right? So you have increased cortisol, and then even with increased cortisol, when cortisol is chronically present, that impairs how insulin works, right? And so you have increased cortisol chronically due to sleep deprivation or due to visceral fat that develops as a result of ovarian aging, and that again impairs how insulin works, and that also affects our ability to lose weight, and it creates an imbalance of our fat compared to muscle. All of these things are, it's I always try to explain this. It's always kind of hard to explain, but it's like everything is happening at the same time. And because everything affects each other, right? All these hormones affect each other. So you have cortisol that's elevated, but the elevated cortisol is also affecting insulin. And then you have insulin, which is causing more fat storage. And then that is causing the body composition changes that you're seeing. And all of that could be related to the changes that are happening to menopause from menopause. It could
Mhm.
be related to just increased stress that you're experiencing. It could be related to not being intentional about sleep. It could be related to sleep disordered breathing that is
Mhm.
also causing increased sleep that could then also affect cortisol. So all these things affect one another. All these hormones affect one another.
Mhm.
And but the main thing is focusing on the main levers. Okay, what is happening? Sometimes you have to focus on two things at one time, but all these hormones start to affect one another. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on one thing or a couple of things to get patients losing weight and making them healthy and active.
So I have a lot of comments, but the all very important things. I would say you mentioned sleep disorder, breathing, sleep apnea is more prevalent in like
Yes.
menopausal women, undiagnosed,
Yes,
right? And that
absolutely.
could lead to non-restorative sleep, and
Yes.
therefore, when you don't get rest, whatever good sleep, restful sleep, then you can have elevated cortisol levels. So it's kind of like a
Yes.
vicious circle,
This
right?
is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then when that happens, are you really going to have the energy and the motivation to do these extra exercises, right? That we're
Exactly.
talking about,
Yes,
or
right.
what goes in the mouth. And you know that less sleep and elevated cortisol can increase ghrelin and make people more hungry. So not only maybe are you
Absolutely.
up more hours if you have bad sleep, but we know that the ghrelin hunger hormone is increased and possibly cortisol. So it's as you said, a vicious cycle. And it really is individualized, like you were,
Yes.
focusing in your practice on really getting a good history from the person or the patient and making sure you're understanding all the things that are going on in their life, because the cortisol could be elevated also just because it is a stressful time in life, right? There could be a lot of things going on. Usually you might be caregiving for parents and caregiving for children at the same time during this same period where you're having difficulty with weight, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like we've covered a lot. You are doing so much in your practice. Is there anything that you wanted to really focus on that we didn't go over?
Oh, I think all of this is fair game. I think the one thing that I wanted to talk about is just also mindset, because especially with high achievers, sometimes, and we alluded to it, I like me using alluded your word.
The word of the day.
Yes. Sometimes we get into this all or none thinking. Okay, I didn't get my one workout in for the day, and so I'm not going to work out anymore for the week because I failed, right? And so it's also recognizing it's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent, right? And
Mhm.
so helping my patients recognize that, and also helping them not to disqualify the positives. Every time I see a patient, I always ask them what is their win for the week in terms of their health. And sometimes they're like, "Oh, I didn't do anything." And I'm like, "Really? You didn't?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I went to the gym like 2 days this week and I got my three protein sources." And I'm like, "Okay, you did things." And it's because they have their idea of what it should look like, or they feel like, okay, it has to be this certain way. And so it's very easy for them to disqualify what they have done. They're focusing on the things that they didn't do, but not focusing on the things on they did do. So always helping them to put it in perspective. I'm like, okay, you didn't do those things, but look at all the amazing things that you have done. That is
Mhm.
amazing. And they're like, oh yeah, like I did. And I think, and it sounds like, I feel when I explain it, it sounds very simple, but it's so easy, like me for included, right? It can be so easy for us to focus on the things that we did not do, and for us to not see all the amazing things that we have done. And just like in
Mhm.
whatever, just like even in life, not even in regards to our health, right? And just helping them see that and getting them, like training them to also get in the mindset like, okay, let me not focus on the things that I didn't do. What did I do today? What did I do? Because then that is going to give you the motivation to keep on going, right? It can be so easy to just like stop, but it's going to give you the motivation to continue make that investment in your health.
Mhm. I think there's a lot of deliberation also on things that are bad in quotes, right? Or they feel maybe guilt about that they did do instead of something
Right.
else, right? Or they were on a cruise and had a drink and a dessert, whatever, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of guilt around that, and realizing, hey, you're human, you need to enjoy life as well, I think is
Yes.
important. But stay in that whole mindset that you have created and that identity that, hey, I'm a person that gets right back on board if I have something that might be off my plan or whatever. So I think the mindset and the motivation and the identity and that whole piece of it is probably the most important, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back to the guilt, because I tell my patients, okay, if you want to have something really delicious, make sure it is really delicious for you.
Mhm.
So if it's your birthday, you're like, you can't not have cake on your birthday.
Yeah.
If your friend brought you this delicious chocolate cake from your like your favorite store, have your slice of cake in moderation. Make sure that you're satiated from other nutrient sources and have that slice of cake. Like really enjoy that slice of cake. And when I say that, they're like, what? Like, I could have cake? And I'm like, yeah, this is not like where I'm telling you, like, don't do this. And I'm berating you for all of the things that you're eating. And I just help them put it into perspective. If you know that you're going to have that slice of cake, just make sure that, like, during the day, you're satiated enough so that you feel content with that just one slice. And
Mhm.
just helping their mindset and the way that they, like, plan out meals. If they know they're going out with their friends to a restaurant and they have all this yummy food, maybe just like look at the menu in advance and like decide, okay, what am I gonna order? Or if you want to order something, like you can share it amongst friends to
Mhm.
just share the wealth. And so just thinking about food in a different way instead of feeling guilty for like eating more, just like eating bad, right? There's a way to think about this stuff where you don't have that immense guilt because with that guilt, it is so hard to continue to go. And so I'm always having them change their mindset, especially how they relate to food and like the feelings that come with that
Mhm.
and helping them to process that and helping them to be mindful in the moment, right? Instead of just eating out of reactivity and just being aware, am I hungry or am I craving this? And if I have a craving, why am I craving this? Is it because like I'm stressed out and I've been working so much and I just want something carb related to make me feel good? And so helping to really think about their food choices, helping to be mindful in the moment, that helps to also decrease that feeling of guilt.
Yeah, a lot of really good points there, of course. The that mindset and the idea of really we're talking about emotional eating
Yeah.
essentially and labeling it for what it is. Make sure you're try to always be eating out of hunger. And like you said, have that nutritious meal before you have that splurge item or whatever it is, your birthday cake or whatever, something
Yeah.
like that. I think is very helpful too. So you don't consume more than you maybe had planned or whatever. I think is really important too. And
Exactly.
everybody's a little different in that area. Everybody has
Yeah.
different triggers and things that might make them do something that they didn't want to do, eat more than that, whatever it is. So it's you really have to be conscientious and careful about how you're talking with everybody. But that's the beauty of working one on one with somebody. So that's good. I like your philosophies for sure. Yeah, we've talked about so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or let me ask where people can find you if that's
Yeah, we really did cover multiple topics
yeah.
in this short amount of time. Yeah, so I'm pretty active on the socials. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. That's Dr. Janeeka Janeeka Benoit Benoit_do. I'm also there on TikTok. I've started TikTok, and I'm also at LinkedIn at the same name. So
Nice.
I'm on all those. And then my website is www.invesselhealth.com.
Very nice. And we learned all about why you named it that. That was really
Yes.
cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. This was a lot of fun always. And you're welcome back anytime. And everybody stay tuned next week for next week's episode. Get healthy, Tampa Bay. Thank you,
Awesome.
Dr.
Thank you.
Benoit.
Thank you. Bye.